All right, back to politics. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is increasing the pressure on Vice President Mike Pence to either invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump, or she will press forward with impeachment plans. Nancy Cordes is following all of this from Capitol Hill now. Nancy, I guess the question is sort of what's next? Yesterday, we briefly, tuned in to the House floor, and it seemed like everything was over before it started. There was an objection, and then it was adjourned. So what goes on next?
Well, that was just setting the stage for today's vote, Anne-Marie. This 25th Amendment resolution was introduced. They tried to pass it unanimously. A Republican objected. So it goes to a vote in the full House today, or tonight, I should say. It is the first step in a process, and frankly, it's unlikely to yield results because White House sources tell CBS News that Vice President Pence is not going to do anything to force the president out.
The House will be in order.
House Democrats will try to up the pressure on the vice president today, passing a resolution calling on him and the cabinet to
declare President Donald J. Trump incapable of executing the duties of his office and to immediately exercise powers as acting president.
The vote to impeach will likely come tomorrow, and the leaders of that push are already getting explicit threats.
You're out of your mind. You haven't seen anything yet.
The impeachment resolution argues President Trump gravely endangered the security of the United States last week.
We fight like hell.
California's Ted Lieu is one of the resolution's authors.
He incited a mob that attacked the Capitol, resulting in numerous deaths. We can't just pretend this did not happen.
In a letter to House Republicans, GOP leader Kevin McCarthy argued against impeachment in favor of something less severe, such as censure. But some of his GOP colleagues will likely vote to impeach. Michigan Republican Peter Meyer.
It is obvious that the president is no longer qualified to hold that office.
If impeachment passes in the House tomorrow, that means the Senate could be gearing up for a trial just as President-elect Biden prepares to take office. West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin argues the votes aren't there to convict.
I think this is so ill-advised for Joe Biden to be coming in, trying to heal the country, trying to be the president of all the people when we're going to be so divided and fighting again.
Mr. Biden has been discussing the timing with Democratic leaders.
Can you go half day on dealing with the impeachment and half day getting my people nominated and confirmed in the Senate?
Of course, it's unclear right now how many half days that Senate trial would last before a vote. And Democrats would need at least 17 Republicans to vote with them in order to convict this president and either remove him from office or, if he's already gone, to ensure that he can't run again. So far, Anne-Marie, just one Senate Republican has said he'll consider impeachment, and two others have called on the president to resign.
So since time is of the essence, the term is coming to an end quite quickly, can you explain why House Democrats first decided to push for the 25th Amendment, particularly because it doesn't seem like Mike Pence will ever be on board with that, before going for impeachment?
Yes, because they are trying to make the case that they're not just trying to score political points here. They actually do want the President of the United States removed ASAP. And they say the only way to ensure that that happens is for the Vice President to immediately invoke the 25th Amendment. Any other remedy will likely result in this president being condemned, but only after he has left office. So they want to start with the 25th Amendment. They know it's unlikely to go anywhere, but they want to check that box. And then, I mean, think about it. They're voting tonight on urging the Vice President to invoke the 25th Amendment. And then as soon as tomorrow morning, they're already moving on to impeachment. So that's a pretty quick timeline when you think back to how long the impeachment process lasted in the House a year ago. We saw hearings and investigations that lasted for months. And now you've got the House Speaker bringing the entire House of Representatives back today, and they're going to vote, take a final vote that is likely to pass on impeachment tomorrow morning.
Do we know what the conversations have been like amongst Republicans, whether or not they are united with a few outliers, supporting or opposing impeachment?
I think it's still safe to say that while there will be some Republicans who vote for impeachment, it is going to be a minority, though certainly any number of Republicans who vote yes will be a big change from the last impeachment when we didn't have any House Republicans who broke ranks. Interestingly, I was talking to Peter Meyer, he's this freshman Republican from Michigan, last night. He said he's likely to vote no on invoking the 25th Amendment, but yes on impeachment. I asked him why that was. He said because he really views the 25th Amendment as an executive matter. This is the decision that is up to the Vice President. Congress really doesn't have a role, he believes, so he may vote no to invoke the 25th Amendment. But he's been very outspoken about the fact that he doesn't believe that this president is fit to remain in office, and so he likely is going to vote to impeach. So I think, while tonight's vote on the 25th Amendment will give us some clues as to how large of a segment of the House Republican Conference is going to break with its leader and vote yes, it's not going to be a perfect match with the GOP vote that we see on impeachment tomorrow. And I think beyond that, there are a number of House Republicans who are still making up their minds, weighing what they are hearing from their constituents, what they feel about what the president did last week. And now they're seeing all of these corporate donations dry up for lawmakers who contested the election results and wondering if they could be next if they vote against impeachment. So far, we haven't heard anything from companies saying, we're going to pull your donations if you vote against impeachment. But certainly this new push to pause funding is creating another dynamic here on Capitol Hill that lawmakers are taking into consideration.
So, Nancy, we heard in your piece that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is actually in favor of censuring the president instead of impeaching him. As lawmakers mull over what to do about the president, what plans are being discussed on how to hold their own colleagues who supported the president's baseless election fraud claims accountable?
Yes, in fact, a number of House Democrats and House and Senate Democrats have called on their colleagues to resign. In some cases, they have introduced resolutions of censure, particularly when it comes to some of the House Republicans who clearly not only helped to organize this big Stop the Steal rally that ended up leading to the violence that we saw on Capitol Hill, really stoked it with some violent language, but also lawmakers who on the day of this uprising were actively tweeting support for these individuals, saying today is our 1776. In one case, even tweeting that the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had left the House chamber, which has really upset some House Democrats and House Republicans alike. That was a tweet by Lauren Boebert, a new lawmaker from Colorado, and that tweet was interpreted by other lawmakers as a signal to the people who had already made it into the Capitol, hey, Speaker Pelosi isn't here, you might want to look elsewhere. And so that has really brought a lot of criticism down on her that House Republicans expressed freely in a conference call that they held with their colleagues yesterday. So this is an ongoing situation. I've never seen anything quite like this, where you've got lawmakers openly calling on others to resign and really pushing that there be some kind of repercussions for what happened here.
Wow. Listen, before I let you go, one of the things that has been puzzling to many of us in the media is that we still haven't received sort of an official briefing from federal officials, law enforcement, on what went wrong, what happened with the attack on the Capitol. Have lawmakers been getting any of these briefings?
They've sort of gotten a patchwork of phone briefings, certainly nothing formal. There have been no hearings. And I think you have to assume that the leadership of law enforcement agencies here on Capitol Hill, at least, is in something of disarray right now. The Capitol Police Chief has resigned. The House and Senate Sergeant-at-Arms have both resigned. They are conducting a fast-moving investigation in their ranks to try to root out officers who may have given comfort or advice to some of these rioters last Wednesday. And so, no, we really haven't gotten any kind of briefing the way you normally would after a major law enforcement event. And that extends to the rest of the federal government as well. We aren't seeing those briefings from other law enforcement agencies, including agencies that are going to be heavily involved in securing the Capitol next week for the inauguration. So that too is a troubling sign of a breakdown in communication that may have contributed to the fact that these agencies were caught unaware last week, despite so many signals on social media that there were people coming here to Washington intent on doing harm.
Yeah, right, indeed. Nancy, thank you so much.